Welcome back to the School of Wisdom. Today I want to talk to you about truth seeking part 2. Now if you haven't watched the first video, I highly recommend it as the concepts build on the ones that were first presented in part 1. Now first I want to start out with a quote or an old adage that has been pervasive throughout the centuries for quite a while. It's the idea that birds of a feather flock together. Said another way, like attracts like. That is to say that birds of the same feather, of the same species, will flock together. That is, they will be with their same kind. Now, that is a perfect segue into this idea of the hierarchy of personal development levels. So it's this idea that there's these different levels in life. And as you grow, as you experience the process of self-purification, of self-realization, as you start to realize some of the deeper truths about the nature of who you are, you will start to move up to higher levels. But that also means that the friends of the past will begin to fall off. But you will make new friends that accord with your newly enhanced ethical structure. That ethical structure is the thing that you make certain that other people don't cross. It is setting up boundaries and not letting people mistreat you because you realize your own value. So the reason that this is important to mention in the context of truth seeking is that as you're moving towards the light, those same friends who are on that same level of awareness as you in the past will no longer understand you. They won't understand why you make certain actions, and they won't understand why you won't want to go to the club with them and get drunk till you can't even function anymore. Now the thing is, even when you make these decisions and people don't understand you, whether they're friends or their family, the thing is, you know that what you are doing is the right thing to do because it is a reflection of your own self-knowledge and repertoire of truth. Now, getting into the 5 stages of truth seeking, this is something that dawned on me. Now, it is something that is also what we call an action and awareness concept, because having an awareness of it will help you to take action on it. So, the first step is this idea that you're actually escaping truth, and to the fact that you even deny that truth even exists. Now, that is what we call escapism / denial. You don't believe it exists, you push away from it as hard as it's pushing back at you. Those are the people who end up getting slapped around by the heavy truths of life. The next step is those who just ignore truth. That is to say, they know it exists, but they don't really see a motivation to pursue it. So, they ignore it. The next step is listening. Those are the type of people who, they know truth exists, and they have an ear for it, but they haven't necessarily begun to pursue it or activate their findings. The next step is responding. These are the people who realize that truth exists, and they're actually beginning to have a kind of communication cycle with it, and they're actually beginning to activate it. Now, the last stage which is also the one that is the most profound and the one that is most transformative, is the one that is where you're actually seeking truth. And again, by seeking truth, I mean searching out those deep gems of who you are, finding out what makes you tick, and finding out why you should love yourself in the most positive way possible. And it also means disassociating from the chains that lead you to unhealthy habits in an unhealthy way of living in the emotional, intellectual, spiritual, and physical sense. So that's the 5 stages of truth seeking. And now I want to present to you an illustration that dawned on me the other day. And I ended up noticing that it somewhat is a kind of reflection and addition to Plato's cave, which was mentioned in part 1, the video previous to this one. And it's the idea that you have this kind of cave over here. Excuse my drawings. You have this cave, and then you have this person in there. And they're looking this way. And these are the ones who are escaping and denying truth, right? So they want nothing to do with it. And they will vehemently attack you when you try to give them a truth. It also means with these type of people, if they're actually attacking you in a way that is threatening your own survival and your emotional stability, sometimes you need to treat them in a way where you stand up for yourself because you realize your own self-worth. So this would be the escaping. Denial phase of truth seeking. Now there's another person who give it some hair. This is the person who is moving towards the darkness of the cave. That is, they know that truth exists because the sun's over here and they're feeling the sun's rays, but they're still moving towards a path of darkness. Now, if someone is in this stage, it pretty much means you kind of need to disassociate yourself if you want to be on that path of self-realization. If it's this type of person, then it's the type of person you really want to help, but you have to realize there's not that kind of emotional reciprocity when you help them. That is to say, when you give them some of your wisdom, do they act on it? Or do they just keep taking it like an emotional vampire? Now again, these are the ultimate emotional vampires. Those are the ones in the cave that are hiding from the light. Those are the narcissists, the psychopaths, the sociopaths, and just those people who just really have no regard for anyone else other than their own. Now, there is another type of person, and this person is kind of in the middle. Now, this person is kind of looking up, and they realize that the truth exists, and they, in some sense, they're kind of teeter-tottering. And this is kind of in that listening and responding stage of truth-seeking. So they're kind of moving towards it, but then they might have a few steps back, and they're kind of teeter-tottering. But ultimately, they're in a much healthier condition than these two people. Now, the ultimate stage of truth-seeking is when you actually become that seeker. And that's the person who is actually moving towards the light. They realize truth exists. They realize there's something utterly profound and transformative about it, and they want it because they realize it is an elevating force in their life. They realize it is bringing the best of friends, those who value having a symbiotic connection. So as you can see, this is the illustration of truth-seeking. And with future videos, I will talk much more about different concepts which highlight certain distinctions in the truth-seeking process. But ultimately, I wanted to present to you part 1 and part 2 so that I can expound on the different ways of understanding truth and try to illuminate this kind of obscure concept which everyone seems to have a different idea about. But that's actually a good thing, that everyone has a different idea about it, because the truth in many ways is relative. That is to say that if you read a poem and I read a poem, we're both going to have our own understanding on it, or based on it through the lens of our own experiences and perceptions. So the way that relates to all of this is that as you go through life, as you find your path, you're going to have a different idea about what is right for you from someone else. But that is ultimately your responsibility to delineate the boundaries of what is right for you and to have people make sure they meet the requirements of treating you respectfully in a way that enhances you, in a way that allows you to love yourself even more. Thank you.